Good morning, or good whatever time it is, wherever you are. Here now, it is Monday morning at 8:30. And today, I'm going to talk about something kind of interesting to me personally. It's about AI and college in the future. So let me go ahead and fix my links, and we'll get started in just a moment. The X algorithm changed a lot last week. I mean, like huge amounts. My numbers dropped off probably 60%. And so I got to figure out what's going on because it's very strange. I mean, I need this stuff to get out to you guys. There we go. So I'll leave it at that. All right. So AI is expanding. It's getting everywhere. All of us have probably used it in some form or another recently. And one of the things I've noticed is that it does keep getting better. Now, this is an interesting issue for a lot of people. A lot of jobs are going to be taken away. A lot of jobs are just going to be done by AI. Right? It's the same thing. Like everybody used to have, there used to be secretaries who would handle your calendar. Well, now you don't need that. You just have your Google Calendar, your whatever calendar, Outlook calendar, and it handles it. It makes it so easy to handle it that you don't need a separate person doing it. And a lot of things are just going to be taken over by AI. Now, most of these things are going to be more administrative, right? Going to be things like scheduling and um, uh, meeting summaries and things like that. But there's also going to be quite a bit of things like coding and marketing, right? Where you can just say, hey, look, I want this, and this. And then you need to say it in this style and with this, and here's the, and do this, give them a reasonable result. Now, I played around with coding with a lot of these things, and I have a background in IT stuff. I actually worked in the tech field for a while. And so I know what I'm doing in terms of coding. And the thing about it is it was good, but it screwed some things up, right? It's not perfect. And there's an art to getting it to do exactly what you want. There's an art to it. You can say it exactly the right way and it'll give you the wrong answer, not what you're looking for, but you can also do it again another way and change what you're saying a little bit and it'll give you the right answer, what you're looking for. And it's not a perfect correlation. There's things that I would have said are perfectly described if it gets wrong, and then you describe it in a way that's a little over the top or not quite right, and it figures it out exactly. So there's an art to that. Now, so a lot of people are navigating the system of like, okay, well, what do I do for my job? What's my job going to be? Right? What do I do for the future? Is my job safe? And we don't really know other than to say that a lot of things where you physically have to be there, those are much safer. Now, they're not permanently safe because robots will eventually be here to do it. You need somebody to fix your pipes. Eventually, your robot will come and do it. Eventually. But that's much farther off, I think, than just the mental work that AI can do. So I don't have a whole lot of answers yet on the job market and AI. But what I want to talk about today is college and AI because college is a huge investment and it's to set, your I guess at this stage probably your kids up for a good future. And how do you do that if you don't know what the future is going to entail? Are you going to set them up with a degree that's not going to be useful. I mean, I was reading things that Stanford's computer science graduates were having like a 20% of them were had a job lined up after graduation. I don't know if that's that hasn't been verified, but there's no doubt that entry level computer science type jobs, coding jobs are being taken over by AI. There's no doubt about that. So what do you do, right? What's the value of college? Should kids even go to college anymore? And I've got some thoughts about that, and I'm filtering this through the hypnotist's perspective. And this is the perspective of someone who understands the subconscious mind, who isn't looking at overt analytics, right? There's all these people who are like, oh, I'm doing all this analysis and this is what's going to happen and cause and effect and all that stuff. I'm going to approach this from a perspective of I understand what the human psyche drives itself towards. I understand what the human psyche needs and craves. I know what it avoids. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit from that perspective. And hopefully this is something new. So, the first thing to say about this is that humans are, in fact, primates. We are primates. We are social animals. We are mammals and social animals. So, there's not going to be a situation where everything just gets swapped out with no repercussions because work is one of those things that gives meaning to a human. We get meaning out of our work, out of our job, out of our career, out of our vocation. We get meaning out of that, and we get meaning out of what groups we are part of. Are you part of the workplace that creates a particular thing or advocates for a particular cause, or what are you doing, right? And who are you doing it with? These are things that really, really matter on the inside to humans. So if you're just going to say, okay, well, now everybody's just going to work from home and everybody's going to have their AI assistant and everybody's just going to be fine. No, that is not going to be the case. That's not going to be the case at all because humans require human to human interaction. Now, what you and I are doing right now over the video, that helps. That helps. But it's not a substitute for face-to-face in person because there's more. Right now we have visual and we have auditory, like the sensory channels that we're using. But face to face, you have visual, you have auditory, you have kinesthetic, right? You can touch the person, right? You can share the same environment, physical environment, right? If it's hot in the room for both of you, that's something that you can share. There's the sense of smell, which is mostly subconscious, but it matters. Sense of smell. And if you're with somebody and you're both having coffee together, right? Or you're eating lunch, or you have a workplace, somebody's birthday, so everybody gets cake or whatever, right? You have this sense of taste as well. You can't do that. You can't share that stuff over the video. You can't share that stuff if you filter it through AI. And so that's a big deal. Now, how do you make up for that? How do you make up for that? Well, that is one of the key values, the key value adds for college is you go to some place and there's all these other people who are similar ages, similar interests, similar. You declare your major and now you're working in a field with other people. You're physically there. You're doing things. You're joining clubs. Okay, you're doing sports together. You're doing all these things that lets your nervous system at the deepest level know that you're part of some group, some community, some tribe. That is so important. So important. And so that component of it alone is going to keep colleges going for a long time. A long time. Now that doesn't mean everybody's going to do it. That doesn't mean it's not going to decline a lot because most people can't really afford it. You're just going to keep doing. You're going to get connected into this network of like-minded individuals. You're going to set up your network. You're going to set up your tribe. You're going to set up your identity, and it's going to prepare you to move forward in life with You're not a lone wolf. You you've got a group. So be aware that alone, some of them are keep going to keep going forever, right? That's just how it's going to be, right? So no matter what happens with the AI stuff, colleges will continue to exist, and they will continue to pull in students, especially from the wealthy groups. I also similarly expect a huge rise in things like country clubs and volunteer associations and other physical things, right? That's another. But if you're going to college just for the network, why are you doing it, right? You can just you don't if you're not going to get there for the if you're not going to go there for the skills, what are you doing? Well, that's where it becomes trickier. Where it becomes trickier. I suspect, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that employers are going to start shifting away from the credentialism of college and into something that may be more of a proof of work thing, right? Oh, show me your portfolio. What have you done so far? Right? There's going to be some of that. There's going to be some of that. But, and here's another thing, that's a high effort thing on the side of an employer, right? I got to get somebody who knows what they're talking about to take the time to look through this person's portfolio of work to determine all this stuff to figure out if they're similar. And maybe you could outsource that to AI, but you probably want to have a human in there at some point of the process. But that's a high effort thing. Even if you're using AI, you have to define what you're looking for. You have to define what you need. You have to define the culture of the place. So, and it's much easier to just say college degree. Okay, college degree. Okay, what's the name of the school? Oh, that school. Okay, right there, you spend 4 seconds and you can already categorize people. Now, it's not perfectly accurate, but it helps. It's easy. So, from that perspective, the credentialism, the simple filtering is going to continue to exist. Now, I'm not so sure that anything else is going to replace that. Right? College has been around for so long, and it's so ingrained in people's ideas about how things go, and it is a pretty decent proxy for intelligence and capability. It's not as much as it used to. It used to be much more meritocratic. Now it's just there's all these check boxes and identity stuff that you can't really be sure if that person good to that college that they're actually any good. You don't really know if they got in from some program or some other DEI or whatever. So it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still good. So those are the two big things that I see. I guess there's another component to this, which is what Nassim Taleb said. He said if something has existed for X years, wherever you are now, it's probably going to keep existing for another X. It's kind of a strange rule, but he's like, for example, Christianity has been around for 2,000 years. He says it's probably going to be around for at least another 2,000. By the time you get to where you are in the process, you're probably halfway there. So I think colleges are going to last for a whole lot longer. Now that also means that the everybody goes to college, which has been around for what 30 years. That seems to be ending, but I think colleges as a whole are going to be around for a long time. I mean, Oxford was around since what, like 1100 or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the starting point, but certainly 200 years, right? I think it's going to keep going for that. So I think we can expect things like that. So what's the takeaway from all of this stuff? What's the takeaway? Well, I think entrepreneurship is huge in the future. If you can do something entrepreneurial, you're going to be in a big, big advantage because you don't need a rubber stamp. You don't need to convince somebody else to hire you, right? I mean, you need to sell for your product to get into other people's hands them to pay you for it. But you don't have to convince somebody to hire you and pay you money at a consistent basis over a certain amount of time. You don't have to do that. And the entrepreneurial thing, you have lots more ways to solve problems. You're not stuck. Okay, if you work for a company, you're going to be doing the same thing or something similar for years and years and years. And what happens if that goes away entirely? If that goes away entirely, you're stuck. You're like 55 and you've been a secretary all your life, and suddenly they're like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to have AI do all our secretarial stuff. What are you going to do? You're going to retool at 55? I mean, it's possible, but that's hard. And so the entrepreneurial stuff is going to be much, much better. That's going to be much more advantageous. So get into that if you can. The vocational stuff, electrician, plumber, landscaper, all that stuff, that's valuable too. There's an interesting thing I saw. Like all these coders who are out of work because of AI is doing the coding, they all want to become electricians. So there may be a big glut of electricians coming up. I don't know, but there's going to be a big influx into there too. Again, eventually robotics is going to take that over probably as well. But what you really might want to get into is position yourself into something where a network is part of the deal. The network is critical to the functioning of the system. Okay, certain things like sales. Okay, business associations. Okay. These are types of things that the network, the people, that's what's going to matter. That's what's going to keep the thing going. And that isn't going away. That's the thing that's not going away. So here's some of my thoughts on this. It's still so early on that I don't really like. I'm tentative in even some of these big things that I'm saying, some of the big trends, because I was convinced that by now college would have essentially imploded, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It still may happen. I don't know the timeline of when it's going to happen, but I do think that's happening in terms of basic education. But the networks, the people, that's going to be a big deal. So those are my thoughts. I'm going to keep tabs on this. We're going to keep going with this. The more things, there's a bunch of stuff developing even as we speak. I've been reading some really interesting things about colleges lowering their budgets, cutting programs, doing things like that. So we're going to keep tabs on this. I know some of you probably have kids who are probably going soon to be going to college, and like, what do you tell them to major in? I should touch on that real quick too. I would suggest something like philosophy, being able to think. That's going to be valuable. Definitely AI stuff. AI assisted anything. AI assisted coding, AI assisted marketing, like anything AI assisted. You have to get really good at getting the most out of an AI assistant, because AI is very good at taking in information and creating something with it, but it's not very good at white space problems. And by white space, I mean, hey, I want to start a business. Do it for me. Right? I mean, where does it go from there? It's going to list some potential businesses. It's going to start talking to you about what type of skills you have and what you're interested in and things like that. But it's not going to be able to say like, hey, okay, I want you to do this specific business here and do it like this, and here's your first step. Right? You have to work with it. Does that make sense? Whereas if I say, AI, create me a coded algorithm that will calculate, the rough percentage of people, um, people that are going to college in the next 10 years, right? It can totally do it. It can do it like great. Yeah, AI is the new computer. It's just a verbal computer, right? Um, and so the skill of dealing with AI, the skill of getting the most out of AI is going to be key. So AI assisted anything is going to be big. I would think that getting good at math is going to be important, again, for the thinking process. And something along the lines of, I don't want to say project management because that's not quite what I mean. But there's, and this aligns with AI, getting the most out of AI. It's the idea that, okay, if I'm going to create a business, what do I need to do first? I need to select the business, and there's a bunch of parameters of why I would select this business over that business. There's where I am, there's who I am, there's what my skills are, there's my age. There's all kinds of different parameters on that. So you're going to have to need to think that through and ask the AI for these specifics. Okay, so something along the lines of, okay, in order to do this, I have to do this first with subtasks, and then this subtasks, and then this subtasks. And if somebody can organize that, then the AI is just going to multiply their productivity. So, yeah, I agree, Chad. A lot of people have a really hard time doing it because a lot of people are so used to being told what to do. They can't think of what needs to be done. They can't do this, task one, subtask, task two, subtask, task three. They can't do that. They say they're going to go, give me this subtask. And that's my career for 20 years. Right. So if you're going to college, your kid's going to college, position them for something where they're the ones who can assess what needs to happen and leverage the AI to get it done. So those are my thoughts on this. Don't overpay for college. Don't overpay for college anymore. It's not worth it. Now, if you're wealthy and you got the money, it can be a huge advantage. It can still be a huge advantage. Harvard's always going to be Harvard, right? It's always going to be Harvard. It doesn't matter. Like you go to Harvard, people are going to be like, okay, he went to Harvard. That's an advantage. But this guy went to regional, state school. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. So those are my thoughts on this, and we'll keep tabs on this. I'll talk about this more in the coming months. I believe I'm definitely curious to see what happens. So thank you for being here with me today. If you found this useful or interesting, feel free to share it with others. If you like and subscribe, it expands my reach, which is nice because when we do things like Feel Good Fridays and the Infinite Love of the Universe, that shares that with more people. Feel free to check out the program links. I may be able to help you with something in your life. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.